Your furnace clicks off and does not click back on. The house goes quiet, then cold, and within the hour you're watching your breath in your own kitchen. That's what a power outage does to a modern home. It was never built to survive without a wire, not for one single night. My name is Gideon Adkins. Born outside Harlan, Kentucky, in a holler my grandfather cleared by hand. Our winters here drop well below zero, and for 200 years my people never once depended on a grid to see them through one. Not once. 20 ways total. That's what I'm laying out for you today. Not stories, not nostalgia. Fireplaces built to throw heat instead of losing it. Stones that hold warmth till morning. A fire banked so it never truly dies. Everyone worked before electricity existed. Everyone still works now. Let's start at the beginning. Number 1. The Rumford fireplace. Most fireplaces are built deep, and a deep firebox throws your heat straight up the chimney instead of out into the room. Count Rumford solved that in 1796. Tall opening, shallow firebox. A back wall angled forward instead of standing flat. Simple carpentry, nothing exotic. That angle does the work. It catches the radiant heat and throws it back into the room instead of losing it up the flue. Built right, a Rumford fireplace puts out 3 to 4 times more usable heat per cord than the deep colonial box most of us grew up with. Same wood, different result. Number 2. The 5-plate stove. This one goes back to Pennsylvania German and Scots-Irish settlers, and it followed them into these mountains. An iron box built into the back of a fireplace, sharing a wall with the next room. 1 fire, 2 rooms heated. Benjamin Franklin worked the same idea in 1741. Iron box, baffles inside, pulling more heat from the smoke before it escaped up the flue. No new chimney needed. The one already built into the house does the work. Here's what iron gives that stone doesn't. Once that plate is hot, it keeps radiating 2-3 hours after the fire dies down. Number 3. The masonry heater. Some call it a Russian stove. Some call it a contraflow. The principle's the same. Smoke doesn't go straight up the chimney. It zigzags through a long wall of brick, stone, or soapstone before it ever reaches outside. That mass pulls out nearly everything the fire's got. Exhaust drops to 120-150 degrees, where a plain metal stove is still throwing 500-600 degrees straight up the flue. Fire it once, maybe twice a day. That stone holds heat and gives it back for 12-24 hours. Heaviest build on this list. Worth every pound. Number 4. The soapstone bed warmer. Soapstone holds heat different than common rock. Heat it in the coals, wrap it in cloth, and slide it to the foot of the bed. A piece the size of a brick will stay warm 4 to 6 hours through the coldest night. Soapstone won't crack from the heat the way granite or sandstone will. That's why it was chosen, not just because it was handy. River stone works too, where soapstone wasn't available, but heat it slow. And never heat a wet stone. A wet stone, heated fast, can crack apart and throw a hot rock across the room. Number 5. The corner chimney. Most log homes here weren't built with one chimney in the center. They were built with a chimney at each end, one for each room, what's called a double pen. Each side heated on its own. Some corner chimneys took flue connections from 2 rooms at once. One stack, doing the work for both. Here's the trade-off. Build a chimney through the inside of a house, and it keeps radiating heat into every room it passes. Build that same chimney against an outside wall, and that heat goes straight into the wind, wasted, gone before it ever warms a soul. Number 6. Banking the fire. Before bed, rake your live coals into a tight pile and cover them with 2-3 inches of hardwood ash. Not to smother, to starve just enough. That ash holds the heat in and cuts the air down to almost nothing. Do it right. Those coals are still alive 8, 10, 12 hours later. Come morning, rake the ash back, lay a fresh split of hickory on the coals, and the fire returns without a single match. One warning: never shut the draft completely. Always crack it open. A sealed flue builds creosote and pushes carbon monoxide back into the house. Number 7. The trench fire. In the older earthen floor structures, root cellars, smokehouses, the earliest cabins, a shallow trench was dug right into the floor. Coals laid in it, then a flat stone or a plank set over the top. Heat came up through the floor instead of across the room. I'll tell you what's honest about this one. The Koreans were doing it with their ondol floors centuries before any settler came to these mountains. The Romans had their Hippocaust. Mountain people arrived at the same answer independently. And without any fire at all, the ground below the frost line holds 50-55 degrees year-round. The earth itself is a heater. Number 8. Chinkin. A log cabin loses most of its heat not through the logs themselves, but through the gaps between them. Air coming in is the enemy. Always was. Mountain families packed those gaps with whatever held: sphagnum moss, clay mixed with straw, hog hair pressed into the daub to give it flex through the freeze and thaw of a Kentucky winter. Later, lime mortar. The hog hair matted, pure clay cracks. Clay with animal hair moves a little, seals itself back down, keeps holding. A well-chinked cabin with 8 10-inch logs will run 30-40 degrees warmer inside than out on a modest fire. That is not a small thing. Number 9. The reflector wall. Put a flat stone, a slab of iron, or a course of dense brick at the back of your fireplace, and it stops something wasteful. It stops letting the back wall absorb your heat and hold it for nobody. Instead, it throws that heat forward, into the room, where the people are. Wealthier homes had cast iron firebacks, purpose-built. Poorer homes used flat sandstone pulled off the hillside. Same principle, different materials. Angle matters. Tilt it slightly forward and the heat drives down into the room. Stand it straight and you push heat across horizontally. A well-placed reflector adds 20-30% more radiant heat. Free. Number 10. The sleeping loft. Heat rises. That is not folk wisdom. That is physics, and mountain families built it into the house on purpose. In a standard single-pen cabin, 16 by 16 feet, maybe 18 by 18, the loft sat directly above the fire, accessed by a notched log ladder. Children slept up there. Elderly family members slept up there, not by accident. Because on the coldest nights, that loft ran 10-20 degrees warmer than the floor below. Some families hung wool blankets along the loft edge to trap the rising warmth and hold it. A curtain, free insulation. The heat was already there. They just kept it from leaving. Number 11. The layered bed. Wool first. Always wool. It holds roughly 80% of its insulating value even when wet. Cotton collapses the moment it gets damp and pulls heat straight out of the body. Mountain families knew this. They raised their own sheep, carded the fiber, spun it, and built their bedding from the flock up. The system was layers. Wool tick beneath you. Wool blankets over you. Heavy quilt on top of that. In an unheated room, that stack holds a livable warmth down to temperatures well below zero outside. Some beds had curtains hung from a frame overhead, heavy panels on all 4 sides, cutting the cold air from reaching the sleeper at all. Number 12. The barrel stove. Not every family had the means or the mason to build a Rumford or masonry heater, but almost everyone had access to a large iron kettle, a cast iron pot, or eventually a salvaged metal drum. You fit a door to it, a flue collar, set it on legs, run a pipe to the chimney, and you have a stove. A 55-gallon drum fitted right heats 500 square feet adequately. Burns a full load of hardwood splits 4 to 6 hours depending on species and how far you open the draft. Sears Roebuck sold the door and fitting kits for decades. The drum itself cost nothing. That was the point. Number 13. The rocket mass heater. I want to be straight with you on this one. This is not an old Appalachian technique. Yanto Evans and Larry Winiarski documented and formalized it in the late 20th century. The physics underneath it are ancient, but the system as a system is modern. Here is what it does. A J-shaped burn chamber feeds wood horizontally into a tall vertical riser. That geometry creates combustion temperatures of 1800–2000 degrees. Nearly complete burn, almost no smoke. The exhaust then runs under a cob bench before exiting. That bench becomes the heater. It radiates for hours after the fire is out, uses 80–90% less wood than an open fireplace. Number 14. Bank in the house. Every fall, before the first hard freeze, mountain families pack the base of the cabin. Soil against the foundation. Leaves banked against the lower logs, sawdust where the mill had left plenty. 18 inches of it on the north and west walls, the sides the wind came from hardest. The ground past the frost line holds close to the mean annual temperature. In Harlan County, that runs around 50–55 degrees. That earth is not warm, but against a bitter January wind, it is a wall. And a wall is everything. 19th century agricultural journals called this standard fall preparation. It was not a trick. It was just what you did before winter came. Number 15. The south-facing window. Nobody in these mountains called it passive solar. They didn't need a term for it. They just knew which way the winter sun ran and they built accordingly. At Harlan County's latitude, the winter sun sits low, 25–30 degrees above the horizon at midday. That angle drives light deep into a south-facing room and straight onto whatever stone or clay floor sits beneath it. That floor absorbs heat all day and gives it back slowly through the night. A single 4x4 window facing due south on a clear winter day contributes 5,000 to 8,000 BTUs. That is several pounds of firewood, for free. Every clear day the sun comes up. Number 16. The hot rock room radiator. This is different from the bed warmer I described earlier. That was personal. This is a room heater. A large flat stone, sandstone, granite, dense limestone, 30 to 50 pounds, heated in the fireplace or on an outdoor fire, then carried inside and set on a stone or earthen pad to radiate into the room. A 40-pound sandstone slab heated to 400 degrees gives back 4,000 to 6,000 BTUs over 3–4 hours as it cools. That is real heat. One warning, same as before. Never heat a wet stone fast. Steam trapped in the fissures has nowhere to go. That stone will crack, and it will do it violently. Number 17. The foot stove. A small clay pot or lidded metal box, perforated lid to let a little air through, 10 to 15 pieces of hardwood charcoal inside. Used in churches, in sleighs, in outhouses. Anywhere you had to sit still and cold for a stretch of time. 10 to 15 briquettes burned about 400 to 800 BTUs over an hour. Not enough to heat a room. enough to keep your feet from going numb in a drafty pew. Here is what I need you to hear. Charcoal burning in a sealed, unventilated space produces lethal carbon monoxide. These were only ever used where the cold air coming in was part of the design. Number 18. Sawdust insulation. Every sawmill in these mountains produced it free. Wagon loads of it. Mountain families packed it into wall cavities, under floors, between the inner and outer boards wherever there was a gap to fill. Not as efficient as modern fiberglass. Not close. But against an uninsulated wood or stone wall, it is a real improvement, and it costs nothing but the hauling. 3 concerns worth naming. Keep it away from the chimney. Sawdust near hot surfaces is a poor combination. Watch for moisture, because wet sawdust rots the wood around it, and it settles, leaving the tops of wall cavities bare. Moss, cattail fluff, corn husks, all used for the same purpose. Number 19. The tallow candle cluster. One tallow candle puts out about 80 BTUs an hour. That heats nothing, but cluster 8, 10, 12 of them together in a small enclosed space, a quilted tent over a bed, a box shelter. And you are looking at 600 to 900 BTUs an hour. Enough to raise that small space 15, 25 degrees above the cold outside it. Tallow came from the hog fat rendered every fall at butchering time. Beeswax burned cleaner and a little hotter. You may have seen the flower pot candle heater. I want to be plain. It creates no extra heat. It only moves the heat around differently. That is the whole truth of it. Number 20. The community fire. This is the most powerful system on this entire list, and it requires no tools, no materials, and no fuel at all. A body at rest puts out around 350 BTUs an hour. 6 people in one room produce over 2,000. That is a small space heater running all night on nothing but the food already eaten. Federal Writers Project interviews from Harlan County document families consolidating into a single structure during the hardest cold snaps, bringing livestock into attached buildings. A milk cow adds 2 to 2,500 BTUs an hour. No technology built any of that. Only neighbors who understood that surviving winter was not a private matter. 20 systems. Not one of them needed a wire in the wall or a truck in the driveway. Every single one worked before the grid existed, and every single one still works today. I want to be honest the way I have been all through this list. The rocket mass heater is a modern design, not an ancient Appalachian secret. The flower pot candle heater moves heat, it does not create it. I told you those things straight because that is the only way any of this is worth your time. Earl never wasted a word. He used to say, "A man who knows how to stay warm owns something no company can repossess." Tell me in the comments, which one of these 20 do you already use, or which one surprised you most? Next time, we are talking about sealed cabins and what they did to the people sleeping in them.